Welcome, everyone. So this week, we are getting ready for our big Mandarin restaurant simulation. Now, I want you to remember, this isn't just about knowing your vocabulary. This is about stepping into a real-world scenario where the language, the culture, the etiquette, it all comes together. Think of this session as our pre-flight briefing. We're going to walk through the entire experience, from the moment you step in the door to the moment you pay the bill. My goal is to give you everything you need to not just get through it, but to really shine. So let's get started.
Here's our roadmap for today. It's broken down into 4 key parts. We'll begin with that very first interaction, entering and getting seated. Then we'll get to the heart of it, understanding the menu and actually ordering your food. Part 3 will tackle something a bit more advanced, making special requests. And finally, we'll wrap up with the art of paying the bill, which is, you'll see, a really rich cultural moment.
All right, let's jump right into part 1. You have to remember, your first impression happens the second you walk through that door. This little exchange at the beginning, it's crucial. It really sets the tone for your entire dining experience. Okay, listen closely to how this exchange flows. The server will greet you, something warm and welcoming like, 你好, 几位? Notice that little rise in the tone on 位? That's what makes it a question. Your response should be just as clear and polite. 两位, 谢谢. Simple, direct, and respectful. Now, the student's response here, using the word liang, actually brings us to a super important grammar point that trips up a lot of new learners. And here it is, the crucial difference between liang and er. Honestly, this is one of the most common mistakes I hear, so let's clear it up. When you are talking about a quantity of something, 2 people, 2 books, 2 of anything, you have to use liang. That's why in the dialogue we say 两位 for 2 people. If you were to say 二位, it would immediately signal that you're a non-native speaker. The number R, on the other hand, is for sequences. You use it when you're reading out a phone number or saying you're on the 2nd floor, low, or even just counting 1, 2, 3, son. Getting this right is a massive step towards sounding more natural and fluent. So, we've made a great first impression. We're now seated at our table. It's time for the main event, ordering. In this next part, we're going to focus on how you can confidently go from looking at the menu, the 菜单, to actually placing your order, which is 点菜. Let's take a closer look at that word for menu, 菜单, 菜单. This is just a perfect example of how beautifully logical Chinese characters can be. The first character, 菜, 菜, means dish or cuisine. The second character, 单, 单, simply means list. You'll see done in other places too, like in 账单, 账单, which is the bill. So a 菜单 is quite literally a dish list. See? Once you understand these building blocks, the vocabulary stops being about memorizing random sounds and starts making perfect sense. So you've decided what you want. How do you signal to the server that you're ready? This is your key phrase. 我要点菜,我要点菜. Let's break it down. 我 is I. 要means to want, and 点菜is the verb phrase to order food. Now that character 点 is really interesting. Its original meaning is to point, which perfectly captures what you do. You point at items on the menu to choose them. So you're basically saying, I want to point at the dishes. For our simulation, especially if you're feeling a little nervous about pronouncing some of those complex dish names, here is a foolproof 3-step strategy. Step 1, get the server's attention with a clear, polite 服务员. Step 2, state your intention with the phrase we just learned. 我要点菜. 我要点菜. And then step 3, and this is the brilliant part for beginners, you just point to what you want on the menu and say, 我要这个, 我要这个, which means I want this one. It's simple, it's effective, and it completely takes away any anxiety you might have about pronunciation. Okay, we're now moving into a more advanced and very important skill. Making a special request for your food requires more than just the right words. It really calls for a level of politeness and cultural sensitivity to make sure your needs are understood and met without creating any friction. The foundational sentence pattern you absolutely need to know is 不要放,不要放. This translates to don't put or please don't add. This is the framework you'll use for any ingredient you want to leave out. Now pay very close attention to the pronunciation here. The character 不 is usually a 4th falling tone. But when it comes right before another 4th tone, like 要, it magically changes to a 2nd rising tone, 不要. Remembering this tone change rule is crucial for sounding correct. And here you can see exactly how to apply that pattern. If you don't want MSG, you say 不要放味精. 不要放味精. If you don't want it spicy, it's 不要放辣椒,不要放辣椒. For a more general statement, you can simply say 我吃素,我吃素, I am a vegetarian. And for something critically important, like an allergy, you absolutely must have this phrase memorized. 我对花生过敏,我对花生过敏. I am allergic to peanuts. Being able to say these things clearly is just essential for your own health and safety. Now, this slide gets into the real nuance of politeness. You could just say, 我要不辣的,我要不辣的. I want a not spicy one. Grammatically, it's fine, but it's very blunt. To show a much higher level of fluency and cultural awareness, you'll want to use the second phrase. By starting with 麻烦, you're essentially saying, sorry to trouble you, or if it's not too much trouble. It acknowledges that you're asking for extra work, which shows respect and helps the other person maintain face, or 面子,面子. So saying 麻烦不要放辣椒,谢谢, is so much more considerate, and believe me, it will be received much, much better. And this brings us to our final act, settling the bill. In many Western cultures, this is a pretty straightforward transaction. But in a Chinese cultural context, this moment is often a very complex and really meaningful social ritual. The actual phrase to ask for the bill is simple enough. You call the server, 服务员, and then you say 买单, 买单. Let's look at those characters again. 买 means to buy, and 单, just like we saw in the word for menu, 菜单 means list. So you are literally asking to buy the list. It's just beautifully efficient and logical. But this leads us to a much, much more complex question than just what to say. The really crucial cultural question is this: who pays? And the answer is deeply tied to concepts of respect, generosity, and social hierarchy. Okay, let's spend some real time on this slide because this is so important. As a general rule, the person who made the invitation is considered the host, and they are expected to pay. This is a primary way of showing generosity and giving face, or 面子, which is that critical concept of social honor and respect. However, as a guest, it is a sign of profound respect for you to offer to pay and to be pretty insistent about it. This leads to what might look like a fight for the bill. It's this friendly, almost theatrical struggle where everyone is insisting on paying. Don't be alarmed by it. It's actually a very positive social dance that reinforces the relationship. And finally, whatever you do, avoid suggesting to go Dutch, or what's known as AA shit. While it's getting more common among young friends, in any kind of formal meal, a business setting, or with anyone older than you, splitting the bill can cause the host to lose face. It can imply that they aren't generous or successful enough to treat you. Understanding this whole dynamic is absolutely critical to avoid major social blunders. So there we have it. From 你好,几位, all the way to 买单, you now possess the complete linguistic script for our restaurant simulation. You have the words, you have the grammar, and you have the key phrases you'll need for every single stage of this interaction. But I want to leave you with this final thought. A script is really just words on a page. The real challenge and the true mark of fluency is in the performance. How are you going to use your tone, your politeness, your understanding of all the cultural context we just discussed to bring that script to life? That is your real task in the simulation. Good luck.